I'm going to tell you something very strange. I asked my nun that I liked the most if the family, when she decided to be a nun, how she reacted. Oh, she said they cried.
Among the most stunning women alive today is Isabella Rossellini, who is also the face of Lancôme, a film muse, and a symbol of timeless beauty and charm. What lurks underneath that glittering surface, though, is a turbulent youth. In the home where she was raised amid monkeys, lions, and even a kangaroo that used to run amok. And it is not the most astounding aspect. Tragically, her romantic life devolved into something worse than any screenplay could ever imagine. Her formerly intense relationship ended suddenly when her lover dumped her after she met someone else in treatment. Life for Isabella Rossellini is anything but idyllic. Throughout this tumultuous voyage, physical attractiveness has never served as a safety net. The standards of the past never appeared to be relevant. This is the account of a wild myth, a lady who refused to be confined by the constraints of destiny and time. The daughter of renowned actress Ingrid Bergman and master filmmaker Roberto Rossellini, Isabella Rossellini came into this world in Rome, Italy on June 18, 1952. When these two cinematic titans joined forces, she found herself smack dab in the middle of a glittering universe where masterpieces were made. And it remained under constant scrutiny. Although Isabella's parents were both very bright and beautiful, Isabella's upbringing was a wild roller coaster of upheaval and deviating from the norm. Her twin sister, Isotta Ingrid Rossellini, went on to teach Italian literature at the university level. Pia Lindström was a former television broadcaster, and her older brother Robertino Ingmar Rossellini was her half-sister from her mother's first marriage. She had 4 half-siblings from her father's side. The youngest of them was Romano Rossellini, who unfortunately died when he was 9 years old. Although Isabella was born into a prominent family, she did not lead the typical Hollywood princess upbringing. Her father was a polygamist, and she was one of many children born into that home, producing a familial dynamic that flouted all conventional norms. She spoke frankly about her family's large number of siblings, 7 in all, during an interview with David Letterman. Because of the complicated family dynamic, there were often arguments and rivalries among the kids, which made her upbringing feel like she was living in a war zone. But what really distinguished her childhood was growing up with wild creatures in the house. Isabella Rossellini had a kangaroo, monkeys, and lions as pets when she was a youngster, whereas other kids had dogs or cats. As a strange present one day, her father brought home a newborn kangaroo, but it was too rough and noisy and a real handful to live with. Sending it to a zoo was their only option after 2 days. It was already too late for the Paris zoo to accept it, compelling her dad to return to Rome in search of a better home for the animal. While this was just another day in Isabella's life, to those on the outside it seemed like a fantastic tale. Fierce sibling rivalry were also a part of family life. An injury that would remain with Isabella is the chipped tooth she sustained when her brother hit her in the face with a telephone during one of their many angry arguments. These disputes were more than just arguments between kids. They were fierce conflicts between kids who had grown up in a home where adults weren't around much. She had her first real brush with major medical issues when she was 5 years old, when she had an appendectomy. The most difficult thing, though, was her severe scoliosis diagnosis at the age of 11. This wasn't your average health crisis. An 18-month ordeal was necessary to correct the malformation. Enduring excruciating stretching operations, enduring full body casts, and finally undergoing a bone graft surgery to fuse her spine with her leg. Her back and legs would always bear the marks of these surgeries, but the real anguish came from remembering all the time she wasted in the hospital bed, unable to play outside or have the carefree childhood she had always dreamed of. Isabella had company throughout her worst hours. To be with her daughter, Ingrid Bergman put her career on pause. For 2 years, the once ruling Hollywood star voluntarily retired from the limelight to care for Isabella, attending to her every need and keeping a close eye on her when she slept. Later, Isabella confessed with much passion that she looked back on that period. For 2 years, my mom gave up her career so she could spend every moment of the day with me. This was more than a token of affection. It served as the bedrock of her tenacity, the driving force that enabled her to persevere through bodily suffering and any future obstacle. But Isabella's wounds were more than skin deep. She was sexually assaulted when she was a youngster, and the trauma it caused her made her reluctant to discuss it. Because she did not want to end her attacker's life for as long as he had caused her suffering, she kept his name hidden for years. She said, "I was a big star in Italy," in a Vulture interview. "I would destroy his life if I told everyone his name." That anguish followed her everywhere she went, one of many unseen battles that the general population never witnessed. No one could have predicted the reality that Isabella had to confront in addition to the psychological and bodily harm. Money was not a prerequisite for fame. Her dad may have been a legendary director, but he wasn't in the business of making money off of movies. Contrary to popular belief, this meant that the Rossellini family did not have a fortune. People believe that celebrity and fortune go hand in hand, but Isabella once told the New York Times that this is not the case. "No, my dad wasn't in charge of the box office." There are visible and unseen wounds on Isabella Rossellini's childhood path. While the physical scars may have faded with time, the trauma she had undergone would always be with her. She learned to channel her suffering into power as a girl who lived through adversity in the face of familial strife and lions. Ascend and persist in one's progress. There was never a time when she was the spoilt brat of the Hollywood elite. The environment she was born into tested her mettle as a fighter from the start. At the age of 19, Isabella Rossellini left Italy for fresh York, beginning a fresh chapter in her life after a troubled upbringing. She was able to break free of her famous parents' stifling influence and forge her own career with this move. Ingrid Bergman, her mother, thought that learning English was the best way to open doors to better prospects. In order for Isabella to further her education and professional opportunities, she enrolled her at Finch College, an esteemed private women's university. Isabella, however, was never only a pupil. She drank deeply from the pulsating fountain of New York City. Johnny Mina was a famous Italian sports journalist who had trouble with English yet interviewed prominent worldwide personalities for television. She got a position as his assistant and interpreter. Without relying on her parents' celebrity, Isabella was able to walk into the world of entertainment naturally thanks to this job. When she was in the US at the time, she appeared on Italian humor TV shows and met famous people like Muhammad Ali. Isabella had never thought about breaking into the modeling industry, even though she had a secure job in television. The occupation appeared absurd and inappropriate for someone who aspired to engage in intellectual pursuits, in her opinion. However, destiny ran its own course. Bruce Weber, a photographer, occurred to snap her during an unplanned picture session. Sometime after the shot was given to Vogue, an unforeseen event occurred. Isabella launched her stunning modeling career with a cover appearance in Vogue after only one shot. But it wasn't a complete coincidence that this was the turning point. Frances Grill, Isabella's close friend, had recently opened a modeling firm named Clique. She sent Isabella's photos to fashion publications and suggested that she give modeling a go. Isabella consented without giving it any consideration since she believed the job was too trivial. However, no one had anticipated such extraordinary outcomes. She had never imagined the doors that would open for her when her first published shot ended up on the cover of Vogue. Isabella joined the fashion business by complete accident, yet she had meteoric success, in contrast to many ambitious models who had a hard time breaking into the profession. She went from being a teenage journalist to being the most wanted face in fashion, appearing in many ads and quickly becoming a worldwide style icon. But Isabella had to re-evaluate her views on modeling due to this accomplishment. When she first heard about it, she thought it was a silly job that didn't take much brainpower. She was the one who had made the error, though, once she entered the field. The only individuals who have a dumb job are the ones who fail to see its significance, she said in an interview. Modeling, she soon realized, was much more than just looking good in a suit. The capacity to evoke feelings via visuals was crucial, as were originality and artistic skill. Collaborating with renowned photographers like as Richard Avedon transported her to a world where geniuses lived and worked, where every shot was more than just a picturesque event, it was an artistic creation. Because of this, Isabella's view on her professional future changed drastically. She didn't see it as a passing gig, rather, she devoted herself entirely to it, redefining herself as a legendary figure in the fashion world. She began a new chapter in her life at that time. One where the limelight brought not just fame, but also the severe difficulties that came with it. Isabella Rossellini became a worldwide sensation after taking an unanticipated detour into the fashion industry. She did more than just survive, she ruled in a field where beauty is determined by passing fads, attaining levels that are beyond the capabilities of most models. Isabella had swiftly climbed the ranks to become a prominent supermodel by the early 1980s. Time magazine said that she was one of the world's top-paid models in 1983, with a staggering daily income of $9,000. The fact that she had never sought out a career in modeling and had no intention of doing so made this achievement all the more astounding. Her rise to the position of most desired face in luxury branding from someone who had previously disdained the industry is a reflection of her unique and irresistible charisma. But Isabella's profession was about much more than just walking the catwalk. The esteemed French cosmetics brand Lancôme appointed her its official global ambassador in 1982 after she inked a deal with the company. I assure you, this was no ordinary endorsement arrangement. Thanks to Isabella, Lancôme's became a global icon of elegance and charm, and its reputation skyrocketed. Isabella was the face of Lancôme for 14 years, which is much longer than the average model's tenure in the role. The beauty business had a record-breaking tenure from 1982 to 1996. Not only did Isabella have stunning looks, but her composure, intellect, and inherent grace added to her appeal. This became her the quintessential representative of Lancôme, a label that embodied elegance and sophistication. For more than 10 years, her likeness appeared in every major advertising campaign, prominent magazine, and luxury cosmetics store on the planet. However, Isabella was dealt an unfathomable blow in 1996, when she was 44 years old. There was one reason Lancôme chose to dump her. That was her age. In the blink of an eye, she went from representing a high-end brand all across the world to becoming an untouchable, outmoded object of scorn. Just because of the digits on her birth certificate, not because she had lost her attractiveness or charisma, is all that matters. Turning 40 was the end of an era for women working in the beauty industry. They preferred a younger model to her. Someone who embodied the industry's previous strict premise that young was paramount. It wasn't only Isabella's professional life that this choice affected. It set off a severe crisis of self-discovery. Despite her lack of initial interest, her career as a model had come to define her. Not because she lacked beauty or skill, but because the business had written off women beyond the age of 40, she was now being eliminated. "I wasn't fired because my beauty had faded," she claimed in an interview. "The company decided to fire me since they didn't see any purpose for ladies like me after the age of 40. But Isabella decided to reject this idea instead of crumbling. Her career was multifaceted, spanning acting and her own creative endeavors. Even though she was no longer associated with Lancôme, her timeless elegance and beauty served as a symbol of the brand's legacy. Subsequently, an unforeseen event transpired. 20 years after her dismissal, Isabella was called back to be their brand ambassador in 2016, when she was 63 years old. This was more than simply a personal triumph, it was a rebuke of the antiquated, ageist beauty standards that had previously controlled the market. Even Lancôme, the cosmetics company that had previously ignored her because of her age, had to admit a basic fact. There is no time limit on beauty. The cosmetics and fashion industries will never be the same after her comeback. It demonstrated that a woman's value is unaffected by the passage of time. Isabella had transformed from a symbol of innocence and brilliance to one of self-assurance and unfettered beauty at this point in time. According to her, "I'm not here to represent beauty anymore." When asked about her return, "I'm not here to represent just myself. An aspiration for happiness, for a life well lived, for enjoying each phase of being older." There is more to Isabella Rossellini's tale than simply her rise from being a model whose age led to her being a trailblazer who changed the face of the beauty industry. The protagonists in this novel defy societal norms and overcome obstacles that have long been in place for women. There was a turning point in Isabella Rossellini's career when she became one of the top supermodels in the world. Is it time for her to enter the acting industry? Acting had never seemed like the natural choice for her, even if she inherited the creative gene pool of her famous parents, Roberto Rossellini and movie queen Ingrid Bergman. It piqued her interest, but the weight of her family's reputation was intimidating. Isabella was afraid to follow in her famous mother Ingrid Bergman's footsteps and become a successful actress after she won 3 Oscars. She treaded carefully, trying out independent cinema projects in Italy, often collaborating with friends rather than starring in big movies, before launching herself headfirst into Hollywood. She was still unsure of her readiness to tackle Hollywood when David Letterman asked her that question once. Even while she was intrigued, she was also aware that if she entered the film industry, people would always compare her to her mother. Isabella finally decided to play Dorothy Valens in David Lynch's 1986 film Blue Velvet, putting a stop to all her doubts. That was a daring step. The psychological complexity of Blue Velvet was only one aspect of the picture. There were disturbing images of violence and nudity as well. At first, Isabella wasn't supposed to play this part. After Helen Mirren declined the role, director David Lynch contacted Isabella with the possibility. Her captivating beauty, mysterious presence, and intense performance were all factors in Lynch's decision to cast her. On the other hand, Blue Velvet was no picnic to shoot. The nightclub singer Dorothy Valens, portrayed by Isabella, was ensnared in a cruel and destructive relationship with a psychopath. Dennis Hopper portrayed the role. Even though it was a delicate topic back then, the film dealt with terrible images of sexual assault. When it came out in 1986, Blue Velvet was a highly divisive picture. On one hand, critics praised it as a masterwork of film. On the other hand, they said it was exploitative and hurt the performer's mental health. Even legendary reviewer Roger Ebert, who never criticizes films openly, was quite critical of the picture, writing that it made him feel both sorry for the performers and furious at the filmmaker. According to Ebert, Isabella Rossellini was taken advantage of in Blue Velvet, especially in the disturbing naked moments. However, Isabella's reaction was totally contradictory. She never felt manipulated or abused, contrary to what Ebert thought. She responded with conviction, "I am an adult," when questioned about it. "Without me, no one can take advantage of you." In addition to ignoring Bert's worries, her statement emphasized that she had voluntarily taken on this task and was well capable of doing it. The film Blue Velvet was not exploitative in Isabella's opinion. It was fearlessly probing the depths of human mind, an art piece that dared to provoke. But Isabella's life was also touched by the film's controversy. Some people even avoided her in public after its publication, she said later, acting as though she were the real-life, tortured Dorothy Valens. She said that many people treated her suspiciously following its release. Regardless of the backlash, Isabella Rossellini's career was undeniably reshaped by Blue Velvet. The picture won several important accolades and was widely considered to be among the best films of the 1980s. Best Picture and Best Supporting Actor were awarded to Dennis Hopper at the 1986 Los Angeles Film Critics Association Awards, LAFCA. David Lynch accepted the award for Best Director from the New York Film Critics Circle at the 1986 NYFCC. At the 1987 Academy Awards, David Lynch was nominated for Best Director. Dennis Hopper was nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the 1987 Golden Globe Awards. Best Actor in a Leading Role nominee Dennis Hopper at the 1988 British Academy Film Awards. Blue Velvet broke Isabella Rossellini's reputation as a mere supermodel and established her as a serious actor, opening new avenues in cinema, even if she did not get any individual accolades for her work. It was more than only a professional high point for her to be in Blue Velvet. It changed who she was completely. An actress who dared to break convention, take chances, and stick by her decisions no matter what, she became an icon of unbridled creativity. She had previously become famous mostly as a supermodel with classic good looks and a symbol of the fashion industry. But suddenly she was leading the way in controversial avant-garde filmmaking. I am ready to accept praise and criticism with equal fervor. Isabella Rossellini's cinematic career would go on from here. She went on to play more complex parts following Blue Velvet. She proved that her beauty was more than just for show. She was an exceptional artist with depth and a remarkable bravery that is seldom witnessed in the field. Isabella Rossellini shocked the world when she made a choice at the age of 50, while many of her colleagues were fighting for their careers in an industry that was known for being cruel to older women. She departed from the spotlight, abandoning the glitter of Hollywood, to follow a childhood passion, the study of animals. Isabella had a lifelong love of the outdoors, even though she was famous for having one of the world's most beautiful faces. She had an early and abiding interest in ethology, the study of animal behavior, communication, and survival in their native environments, because she found creatures fascinating. But her stunning good looks had already catapulted her into the entertainment industries. She had become famous because to her attractiveness, but it had also taken her away from her true calling. There were fewer acting roles available to her when she was 50 years old. Older actresses were not particularly sought after by Hollywood. Isabella had the opportunity to contemplate her life's priorities amid this professional slump. She was so set on getting back into teaching that she enrolled in a master's program in animal behavior at New York's Hunter College. This wasn't a crash course for A-listers. Academically, it was a challenging curriculum. Graduating with a master's degree at the age of 67, she had to face rigorous tests, take part in research, and do scientific projects. That second was worth more to her than any Oscar or beauty pageant she had ever won. Isabella continued beyond theory, though. She was hell-bent on finding a practical use for her scientific training. Mama Farm was the moniker she gave to the expansive property she bought in 2013 in Brookhaven, Long Island, New York. All ages could come here to learn about ecosystems, animal care, and the profound bond between people and the natural world. It was more than simply her house, it was a conservation and teaching initiative. She felt an instant connection to the place she would spend her life there the moment she stepped foot on it. In a short amount of time, Mama Farm transformed into a non-profit learning center that provides courses on organic farming, animal welfare, and sustainable practices. Taking an active role in tending to the flock of sheep, goats, hens, and other farm animals was something Isabella did on a regular basis. Many were astonished to see Isabella Rossellini, who had been a supermodel and Lancôme muse, suddenly dressed in labor clothes and holding a lamb. Her hands were smeared in filth. True joy, though, was this for her. Conservation was just the beginning of her work. Her goal was to pique people's interest in science and make scientific information more widely available. Green Porno was a short documentary series that Isabella created, directed, and produced using her creative sensibilities. In it, she depicted different animals to describe their reproductive activities. Both the audience and the presenters benefited much from this innovative fusion of art and science. She once said, "Why not have a praying mantis perform a comedy act while informing people about its mating habits?" Sex and Consequences was Isabella Rossellini's second series that explored the biological features of animals. It followed the successful Green Porno and showcased her continuous creative inquiry. She demonstrated that she had never ceased challenging herself or finding new ways to express herself through these endeavors, which also gave the public a glimpse into her ethological enthusiasm. There has never been a voyage like Isabella Rossellini's. No one has ever been able to tell her value, regardless of her career path, from supermodel and Hollywood actress to scientist and animal activist. Her career was waning, but she didn't hold tenaciously to it when the film and beauty industries passed her by due to her age. This time, though, she took a daring leap into uncharted territory. One that was in harmony with her genuine interests. Before becoming a farmer, I was a supermodel and an actor. I refuse to be defined, I am just who I am. Beyond being an expression of opinion, this comment has deeper implications. It sent a strong message about chasing one's dreams no matter one's age or the constraints society places on them. Isabella Rossellini has emerged as a powerful symbol of independence and strength by methodically escaping all societal expectations, including those linked to beauty, celebrity, and ageism. Once Isabella Rossellini made a name for herself in the media and fashion industries, she was welcomed into Hollywood's elite social circles. A tragic meeting in 1978 occurred as a result of her employment with RAI, the national television network of Italy. Distinguished film director Martin Scorsese is the subject of this conversation. Scorsese was promoting his concert documentary The Last Waltz when he was captivated by Rossellini's sophisticated and alluring personality. There was more to that interview than simply talking movies. A fiery love affair was just starting to take shape. Later on, Rossellini confessed that she hadn't watched The Last Waltz prior to the interview, but Scorsese, in his trademark enthusiastic fashion, suggested it on the spot. "I thought we might see it together this evening." The movie showing transformed what had begun as a formal talk into a whole new universe for Isabella, where conversations about John Ford, distinctive camera moves, and in-depth film analysis became an integral part of her daily life. "I believe he liked me," Rossellini reflected afterwards. They moved swiftly in their relationship. And they tied the knot in 1979, hardly a year after that. Rossellini was getting married for the first time, while Scorsese was getting hitched for the third time. Isabella was only 25 years old when this happened, but Scorsese had already established himself as one of Hollywood's most influential directors. Her personal life and profession were both profoundly affected by her marriage to a famous director. A number of prominent modeling engagements, including a cover story in Vogue, came Rossellini's way after her wedding, elevating her already stellar reputation. However, Scorsese supposedly felt dissatisfied rather than proud of it. Their marriage had its share of ups and downs, despite their passion at times. Scorsese was a brilliant filmmaker, but he was also a troubled human being, anxious, unsteady, and notoriously unfaithful. In the meantime, Rossellini had a hard time standing on her own 2 feet in the presence of such a powerful figure. Once Rossellini's mother, Ingrid Bergman, received a fatal cancer diagnosis in 1982, their differences became unbearable. Rossellini experienced her worst sorrow in the last days of her mother's life. She went on to tell Sun Sentinel that while loss may unite people, it can also push them apart. "You can get through this as a team if you're tough and tenacious. It may drive a wedge between you if you're not, which is what happened to me." Rossellini believed Scorsese couldn't provide the emotional assistance she needed at this period. In the face of impending betrayal and marital instability, she freaked out and decided to end the relationship. Their secret divorce was finalized in 1982. Even though Rossellini's marriage ended painfully, she considered it a significant part of her life story. "I had a lovely marriage with Marty," she said to The Guardian afterwards. "We may still be together now if I had been more mature, sagacious, and composed when we broke up." Years later, though, Scorsese made a disclosure that altered her perception of their relationship. Long after they had already divorced, Scorsese made the surprising confession that Isabella's family connection to Roberto Rossellini was a major factor in his attraction to her. Isabella was taken aback when she heard this. A chilling reality had replaced all her previous beliefs about their marriage, the love, the bond, the memories, with an icy silence. For Scorsese, has Isabella Rossellini ever been more than just a continuation of her father's name? Isabella Rossellini's personal life went through a storm shortly after her divorce from Martin Scorsese. This time, though, she was the one who wasn't duped. Scandal was being stoked by her. Jan Viettima was a dashing model attending New York University who had an affair with Rossellini before her marriage to Martin Scorsese was formally confirmed. Elettra Rossellini Vetterman was born into the world as a product of her mother Ingrid Bergman's notorious history, which prompted widespread outrage and condemnation at the time. The peculiar resemblance between the two eras was too much for many to overlook. Ingrid Bergman had faced severe criticism and even denunciation in the U.S. Congress for her unwed pregnancy with filmmaker Roberto Rossellini in the past. Isabella did not endure the same level of outright hostility as her mother, but she did experience subtle rejection from the worlds of fashion and movies. The moral provisions in her Lancôme contract were at risk if she failed to exercise caution. Isabella purposefully chose to evade more examination. Wiedemann was her spouse. She also formalized her divorce from Scorsese that day. She went to Santo Domingo, signed the divorce papers, and was married off to her second husband in 30 minutes, a move that seemed almost commercial, but Isabella never considered marriage to be a holy institution. "To me, marriage is not a connection, it's only documentation, like a passport or visa," she said later to the Los Angeles Times. "I just answered, so what, when folks were furious that I was pregnant before I was married. My family was never the source of my disdain for marriage, rather, it was the false Catholics of Italy." The marriage between Rossellini and Wiedemann was unstable from the beginning, even if it only lasted 3 years, from 1983 to 1986. A man of adventure, Wiedemann was. Sailing, mountaineering, and an uninhibited lifestyle were his passions. All of those were novel to Isabella. She reflected on how John appeared so happy, healthy, balanced, tranquil in an interview with the South Florida Sun Sentinel. He embodied the carefree spirit I yearned for, racing rivers and scaling mountains, activities I had never attempted before, and I found myself irresistibly drawn to him. Their differences, however, were increasingly obvious as time went on. While Isabella continued to pursue acting professionally, Viet Aman, who went on to become a Microsoft executive, became increasingly estranged from the entertainment industry. They were technically married until 1986, even though they divorced less than a year after the ceremony. This union only served to deepen Isabella's mistrust of the institution. "Europeans don't marry, they live together," she said frankly in a separate interview with the Los Angeles Times. Divorce is a common life event in the United States. "I never imagined that I would tie the knot. Actually, the only reason I wed Americans was because they were the ones who requested to get married. Their proposal came after only 2 weeks of dating." The suspicions about Rossellini's love life persisted even after her second marriage ended discreetly. She was romantically involved with the renowned ballet dancer Mikhail Baryshnikov, who co-starred with her in the 1985 film White Nights, shortly after her divorce. The South Florida Sun-Sentinel and the Washington Post were among the media sources who suggested that Rossellini's relationship with Baryshnikov was the true cause of her breakup with Wiedemann. The press kept spreading the stories even though the source denied them time and time again. "It makes it sound dishonest, and I feel ashamed having to explain I didn't have an affair," she told the Sentinel once. "I wish I could tell you a wild or scandalous tale, but all it was that we were close friends." While it was true, she couldn't ignore Baryshnikov's seductive presence. See him for yourself. He possesses an exceptional combination of intelligence, charm, and good looks. Whatever her feelings for Baryshnikov may have been, one thing was evident. Isabella Rossellini's second marriage helped her develop a greater sense of herself. A guy was no longer necessary for her to feel whole. And after 2 short marriages, she entered a new era, one in which she was free to choose her own fate without anyone else's interference. Her life was still full with intense relationships, even if she had sworn off marriage. David Lynch, Hollywood's most eccentric filmmaker, was the subject of one of the most memorable ones. As the fearless and divisive Dorothy Valens, a nightclub singer ensnared in an abusive relationship, a character that solidified Isabella Rossellini's status as a serious actress on the set of Blue Velvet, 1986, the romance between David Lynch and Rossellini started. Lynch selected Rossellini over Helen Mirren, who was originally cast for the role, a choice that seemed to have deeper personal implications. Despite Lynch's continued marriage to Mary Fisk, his second wife, throughout production, their connection took a sexual turn. Their affair was the last straw that broke Lynch's marriage. Fisk spoke into excruciating detail about the agony he felt after the betrayal. "I felt like a lost soul, my heart broken and my emotions seeping out of every crevice." Lynch and Rossellini were formally a relationship after the divorce, commencing a relationship that would be passionate yet tumultuous for 5 years. Rossellini had no idea Lynch would leave her in such a brutal manner, no matter how much she loved him. One day, he vanished from her life completely, leaving no trace behind. She contacted her ex-husband Martin Scorsese, seeking comfort in her state of disbelief. However, his reaction simply made her more shocked. "Weeks ago, I was aware of this. You were kissed by David while the paparazzi watched." Scorsese was correct. If this is his first public display of affection after 5 years of dating, it's clear he's hiding something. Lynch had committed the same act of adultery that had started their relationship, betraying Rossellini. Lynch had developed feelings for Mary Sweeney, a film editor who worked with him, while he was still seeing Rossellini. Rossellini was distraught when Lynch married Sweeney shortly after their affair, which resulted in a child. "I was really broken, and I was even taken aback by how unhappy I was," she said in her 1997 memoir, Some of Me, describing the grief. Still, Rossellini appeared to recover from her injuries with the passage of time. Even though she was brutally abandoned, she never harbored any animosity. She paid tribute to Lynch at the 2019 Honorary Academy Awards and publicly wished him a good birthday in 2021 on Instagram. In spite of everything that has happened, it appears that they have reconciled and are once again friends and fans. Lynch may have broken her heart, but he is still one of her greatest loves. Isabella Rossellini went into another passionate romance as the agony of David Lynch's absence went unresolved. This time it's Gary Oldman, a man of astounding anarchy and compelling charisma. Lynch could have departed silently, but Oldman brought a new type of tragedy. He abandoned her for a recovered addict. There was more to the end of their love tale than that. The most shameful manner imaginable was how it ended. While receiving treatment for his addiction, her fiancé met someone else. In 1994, while filming Immortal Beloved, in which Oldman played Ludwig van Beethoven and Rossellini one of his loves, the two actors crossed paths. Their on-screen connection became a real-life relationship within the set's passionate and romantic environment. They started discussing marriage within the first few weeks of dating. Their romance progressed at a dizzying rate, and they were soon engaged in sharing a home. It appeared to be the start of an exciting new chapter to Rossellini. The truth is that it was the beginning of a terrible one. Rossellini had an inkling from the start that Oldman would be difficult to work with. His roles on cinema were known for their passionate and explosive nature. Furthermore, he battled alcoholism in real life and carried the same problems with him. When Oldman was at his worst, he would go on 4-day drinking binges, spending enough at the hotel to pay for a whole year's mortgage. It seemed like things were looking well for him when he was in Rossellini's company. There was a period when she thought she might aid him in overcoming his problems. However, the harsh reality was much worse. If the person wasn't prepared to be saved, then love couldn't save them. Even when they were together, Oldman's addiction spiraled out of control. His tongue grew black from weariness after he drank too much. When Rossellini finally snapped, she issued an ultimatum. Rehab is an option or we part ways. Yes, Oldman consented. Donia Fiorentino was another lady he met in treatment and fell head over heels for. Instead of going back to Rossellini to carry on with their marriage plans once he finished the program, he stopped it all quietly. Rossellini was humiliated by the separation, not only the breakup itself. She had placed her trust in him and supported him through his hardships, but he abandoned her for someone he met in the exact facility she had sent him to get well. In subsequent interviews, she repeatedly dug out of questions on her romance with Oldman, without providing a lengthy explanation. Its duration was brief. Despite the horrific way she was abandoned, Rossellini never felt animosity. Jonathan Weidman, David Lynch, and Martin Scorsese were among her many exes with whom she kept up amicable contacts. The insightful and forward-thinking guys who had captured her heart were frequently praised in her speeches. However, she said nothing about Oldman. Like a deep wound, this part of her life seemed impossible to heal. Isabella Rossellini has reached her 70s with a more low-key lifestyle, after decades in the limelight, but she has never really cut ties with her work or her interests. Mama Farm, a sustainable farm in New York that she established in 2013, provides organic food and serves as a center for teaching about animal and environmental conservation. She is now 73 years old and administers the property. The way Mama Farm brings together nature, creativity, and meaningful undertakings captures Rossellini's soul. Rossellini values her grandparent role as much as her work on the farm. Elettra Wiedmann, who had a boy named Ronan Hendrik in 2018 and a son named Vigo River in 2021, abandoned a career as a model to study farming and cooking. A modest delight that Rossellini may not have completely recognized throughout her busy years in the past has been seeing the following generation mature. But her life is much more than just farming and family. The fact that Rossellini is still performing shows that being an artist has no age limit. Alice Rohrwacher's evocative 2023 film La Cimera, about Italian relic collectors, had her as the lead. Again, Rossellini's flexibility as an actor was reaffirmed by the widespread admiration for the picture. Isabella Rossellini is a symbol of the convergence of art, science, and feminism, thanks to her decades-long career that goes much beyond that of an actress or model. She was born into fame, the daughter of Ingrid Bergman and Roberto Rossellini, but she did not want to be a shadow of her famous parents, so she struck out on her own. Whether it's taking on daring and experimental film roles or being the longest-serving ambassador for Lancôme, Rossellini has always pushed the boundaries of what it means to be an artist. She is still going strong at 73 years of age. Green Porno is an educational series that delves into animal sexuality with wit and scientific understanding, and she is still involved in acting, writing, and contributing to the field of natural science. making a historic return as Lancôme's ambassador at age 63, which transformed the industry's view of beauty. She has also been a pioneer in battling age discrimination in fashion. Age is no barrier to creativity. Rossellini is living proof of that. Rather of diminishing its significance, it enhances it by adding depth and richness. At 2024, she plans to make an appearance at Conclave. Fascinating political religious drama describing the process of choosing a new pope after a sudden death. Rossellini portrays Sister Agnes, a quiet but powerful figure whose few lines convey profound meaning, in the film. Her sharp, mysterious screen presence, which never fails to captivate spectators, is on full display in this part. Isabella Rossellini may be in her 70s, but she shows no signs of slowing down. She keeps working in movies, has an impact on younger generations, and has the same free attitude that has made her famous. Her life is a work in progress. She has been a supermodel, actor, director, scientist, activist, and now a loving grandma. As a woman, Isabella Rossellini has always disregarded societal norms. From a little girl with an incredible film history to a top supermodel, from an intrepid actor to a scientist enchanted by nature, she has always broken the mold and broken expectations. She never let her age, popularity, or beauty hold her back. For her, they were only the beginning of a never-ending quest for knowledge about herself. She persevered unwaveringly through several marital breakdowns, devastating losses, and professional crises. Isabella is still very much focused on her acting career, her role as manager of Mama Farm, and the pleasures of grandmahood, even though she is now in her 70s. Through it all, she has not only remained strong, but she has also transformed in ways few saw coming. Her influence extends well beyond the silver screen and the pages of fashion magazines. It is in the courage and confidence she instilled in other women and the belief in themselves that will endure her legacy. Although Isabella has been famous for her stunning good looks and memorable performances, what will stick with fans the most is her courageous, independent spirit and relentless pursuit of greatness. Is your perspective on creativity, aging, and the power of a woman to choose her own fate influenced by her story? Isabella Rossellini is an inspiration if you're looking for a lady who doesn't settle for mediocrity, embraces change, and lives life to the fullest. With unfaltering determination and boundless imagination, she keeps penning her tale, whether it's on the big screen, in the scientific community, or at Mama Farm. If you want to read more motivational accounts of famous people who have triumphed against adversity to leave an indelible mark on the world, then you should subscribe to our channel. Keep an eye out for our next feature.